Miley Cyrus with the song River, and welcome back. It is the Country Viewpoint on Flow FM. Well, it's time to take a look at matters concerning the Coorong Council in South Australia, and I caught up with the CEO of the Coorong Council recently, Miss Bridgette Mather. And there's a bit of a concerning trend coming out of local community groups and sporting clubs in that part of the world, with volunteer numbers dropping off. So I'll take you to the conversation I had earlier with the Chief Executive Officer of the Coorong Council in South Australia.
Council volunteers are critical to our success and we value them highly. It is a national phenomenon. It's not really only with local government, it's across most volunteering organisations. And with COVID, when volunteers couldn't participate because of social distancing and all the things that went with that, we noticed that some people then, once they were free to volunteer again, had chosen to do something else with their time. Or we also have ageing populations across Australia, so people are retiring and then find that they may not be capable of volunteering anymore. So there's a whole lot of reasons why the way people volunteer have changed, and it has been a growing trend probably over the last 5 to 10 years. We work very hard. We have a staff member whose really sole purpose is to work with volunteers to make sure that the clubs and the organisations in the community have the support they need, whether it's training their executives each year on how to run a meeting or what other support they might need. And we did a survey of those groups about how we might support them into the future, knowing that this was a trend across Australia. So we're doing all we can to ensure volunteers are there. We have volunteers of council as well who do weeding and looking after cemeteries, which is valuable as well. But we have to work hard to make sure that they stay connected.
Most definitely. Have you had any ratepayers or concerned community members reach out to you since this media release went out?
No. I think it's a well-known fact that people are choosing to use their time in different ways. The cohort of volunteers that you sometimes have are ageing. And so there's a whole lot of factors playing into that.
So should we just sort of reiterate to listeners what some of the key themes were, which sort of illustrate how community groups and sporting organisations can go about sort of navigating the drop that we've seen in volunteers?
I would just encourage anybody who's listening, if they feel that they could contribute and volunteer in their local community, whether it's to a sports group or to a gardening group, or all the different things that council do, to just contact their local council or to contact us if they're keen to. There's plenty of opportunity for volunteers to be involved, or for people who think they may even have only an hour a week to really just contact the council, and we'd be glad to induct them and head them in the right direction.
And there's more to chat about with Miss Bridgette Mather on the other side of this short break. Don't go anywhere. It's the Country Viewpoint here on Flow FM. Jelly Roll with Need a Favour, and welcome back. You're listening to the Country Viewpoint here on your Colour of Country Life Flow FM, and we're exploring all matters pertaining to the Coorong Council in South Australia. And I caught up with the CEO of the council recently. Her name's Miss Bridgette Mather. We're talking about volunteer numbers dropping off for community groups and local sporting clubs, and I asked the CEO whether this trend is widespread or not, and here's what she had to say.
It's across the board. Volunteers just generally. Most sports clubs will tell you that it's been a trend over the last few years, as will community groups. The volunteers of council who do look after our cemeteries, who look after our parks, do weeding, they all, again, the same sort of trend. Our volunteers in our tourist information centres, it is across the board. It's not one particular area. And councils, and Coorong's no different, are keen to support volunteers in whatever way we can. But we're also preparing, I suppose, like Pangarinda, which is a beautiful botanic garden that we have volunteers, and they have been dedicated for many, many years. But as with the rest of us, they also age. And so we're looking at other options and other models that we can take to look after those particular council assets. So it's always not one, I suppose, one model fits all. We look at each of the areas where the volunteers work and then work out what would be the best way going forward if we had no volunteers in that area. But at the same time, always supporting them and encouraging people in the community to put their hand up to do a little bit, whether it's only an hour a week, hour a month, whatever they think they could manage.
Is there any information that you're privy to which suggests that there's a correlation between those who volunteer and things that they have a particular attachment to? For instance, obviously, if it's a sporting organisation, a child or a grandchild that is playing for that particular sports club, which obviously, highly incentivises them to volunteer?
Of course, anecdotally, you would know if you have children or if you have grandchildren that you're more likely to get involved in that club while your children are involved, and then you move out of it. Like most of us, I think, have been executives of some sporting club or club that our children have been involved in, and then when they grow up and do different things, you move out of that space. And I think that's pretty standard across most, particularly sporting clubs. I know that with our Pangarinda, the Botanic Gardens, the people are there are very passionate about the plants that are in the garden. So they obviously put their hand up for that particular volunteering. So it varies, but I think if you've got a connection to the club through family or children, you're more likely to get involved.
And Bridgette, we'll just give you the floor here. It's your opportunity just to tell us about any other upcoming events or any meetings that the council has lined up for the foreseeable future.
So this is a great time to say that we've got a new skate park at Meningie that's officially opened in a week's time on the 17th. And it is a great example of council working with the community. So the council have built the skate park, but there's also been a very strong involvement by the local young people in particular to do some fundraising, to do some beautification around the skate park. So it's a good example of where the community and volunteers in that group have been very, very active in making sure that their skate park's going to look fabulous.
That is the Coorong Council's Chief Executive Officer speaking to me earlier on, Miss Bridgette Mather. And there's a lot more to come on the Country Viewpoint, including Ricky Lambert's interviews for this Wednesday afternoon. So don't go anywhere. It's the Country Viewpoint on Flow FM.